Meanwhile, on Friday morning, we welcome back to the studio with a legislative update today, Representative Dr. John Bizon. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. It's so good to be back with you, Richard.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate your time as well. Boy, we have several things to talk about, a lot of it money-related.
Seems like this is the money time of year up in Lansing. You know,
right.
We try to get the budget done by early June so that particularly the schools know what they have going in. The school is oftentimes has a budget that begins in July and ends in July, and the state budget doesn't begin until October 1st of the year. They're on a funny fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we try to get the budget done early. And they've been very successful in the last 5 years. All of the leadership says we aren't going to be the ones to break this habit.
Mm-hmm.
And even when it comes to going up to Mackinac, as you know, the Speaker of the House said, okay, guys, we've got work to do, and we aren't going to be up in Mackinac when you have Detroit hanging out there yet, and we have the projections for the budget, the report that just came out saying that we were behind in our collections, and we need to go back and adjust because, as you know, the Constitution requires a balanced budget.
Yeah, and as far as that timeliness of reporting to colleges about what they're going to get, I do recall the days when that wasn't the case, and that caused some headaches in some
causes a
controllers'
ton
offices.
Of headaches if you come in September or October, and they've been on a budget already since July of the year,
Right.
and you say, yeah, we're going to get you a little bit less money, and you have to make not only the cuts that you have there, but you've already spent over that amount for 4 or 5 months already, and the question becomes, is that fair? And how, yes, we tell them that they need a balanced budget too,
Right.
but that's hard to do if they don't know what kind of money they have coming in.
So let's talk about that. The money that we were planning on is not coming, so now we have a train that's left the station and we have to adjust the route, so to speak.
A little bit, yes. I know that those decisions are often made at a much higher pay grade than mine. Typically, you're going to have the Speaker and the Appropriations Chair get together with their Senate counterparts, and they're going to come up with targets. And then those will be taken back to the individual chairman of the various committees, of the various appropriations subcommittees, and they say, here is your new target. And so they get to go through the individual lines and say, well, perhaps we can take a little bit out of here and a little bit out of there to meet the new target. And I was sitting as one of the participants in a discussion on community colleges, being vice chair of community college appropriation. So I got to see that process to some degree. And we're relying so heavily on our community colleges for many of the changes in education that we anticipate. The early and middle college concept, where we're going to be taking a 13th year and getting people a combined high school graduation certificate, but also associate's degree as well. And we're going to be expanding the skilled trades because there is definitely a need for people. Someone told me that 80% of the people in the skilled trades are over the age of 50 right now. So we anticipate that in the next few years, if we do not do anything, and already in this economy we have a great demand for those people, for people who have those skills.
And not enough of those people.
And there just are not. And we need to make sure that we have people that have skills that are needed by employers. And when I talk to many of our people out in the Fort area, they tell me that that's exactly what they are missing. They have made the capital investments, but now they still need workers to fill the slots, and they need qualified workers, and manufacturing isn't what it used to be. It's not just screwing on that bolt anymore, and you have to know how to run the machines, and you have to have some greater computer literacy in order to have those skills, and it's those skills that become so essential.
So when we come back in a minute, we'll talk a little bit about what might be at the heart of this, I don't want to call it scrambling, but these adjustments that we have to make in the budget now when we come back in just a minute on WBCK. Representative John Bizon is back with us for a legislative update today. So what has caused this issue now where we're scrambling to close a hole in the budget?
Well, they had a revenue estimating conference that is run, and these are all the finance people that typically get together. And these are the gurus who not only know the budget, but they know the taxing and the money that is coming into the government. And they'll tell you that some of the dollars are more fluid. There's a CIT, and that CIT this past year got us an extra $400 million that, we didn't think that we'd be collecting. And this year, that $400 million is going to be gone again. And so it's 1 year up and 1 year down. And I think that they're still trying to get their hands around exactly how much money is coming in under the CIT, which is a relatively new tax. I have to say that unemployment is down, and so uh, the money from working is doing very, very nicely.
Sure, yeah.
Those taxes, the payroll taxes, are coming in fairly nicely. But then again, more and more people are shopping online, and we find that the taxes from some of the stores, the sales tax that we have, is below what we had anticipated, and that may very well be a function of what we are missing in online sales.
That's interesting because, depending on the retailer online, you're supposed to pay your taxes, and some of them will
Take the taxes for you.
calculate that for you. Others do not. And, of course, you land in front of your tax preparer and, April 14th or whatever day you go, and your tax preparer says, did you buy anything online? Did you pay all your taxes? And I suppose most of us say, of course we did. But if they didn't collect it, did we keep track of it? Is the question.
Right, and I dare say that most people don't keep track of how much they spend online.
Yeah.
And yes, you can go back and perhaps through your credit card bills try to figure out how much was spent. But I don't know how many people actually go through that effort. And so there is the presumption that a lot of that is not going to be in there. I think that we still have to look at the mega credits, which is going to be costing us, I think, some $400 million more this year than the previous year in these credits of people who are still filing under the old Michigan business tax. I think the CIT, the corporate income tax, is a significant decrease, and the only reason anyone would still file under the antiquated MBT now is because they're getting significant dollars back on the credits that were given out from the Angler and mostly over the Granholm and even a little bit at the very, very beginning of the current Snyder administration. And the question becomes, do we need to look at that funding mechanism as well? So there are a number of different things, a number of moving balls here that all of them can influence the dollars that we receive. And
this year just seems to be more so than maybe in the last
And
few.
we anticipate that this is a temporary thing, that next year we're going to be getting more of the dollars as it bounces back up again. We still project the economy to do quite well. But by the same token, we have spent some of next year's money with the roads package that was passed. We said that, yes, more of our dollars are going to be going to the roads because we need to get the roads fixed. And so I'm committed to seeing that does happen and those dollars do stay there. I'm going to be, again, voting against those budgets that take the dollars out of roads, as I have a couple of different times this year.
Dr. John Bizon with us with a legislative update on WBCK 820. Representative Dr. John Bizon is with us this half hour. One of the things that folks in your position often end up doing is hearing from constituents who say, I have this problem.
Exactly.
And I could use your help in Lansing to overcome it. That's happened with a piece of property in Springfield, hasn't it?
Yes, I have to say that Nate Henney, the manager out to Springfield, has been very, very good about keeping in touch with us and putting together a package so that we can get through the legislature a piece of legislation that will help with his problem, which is 52 acres that the American Legion Hospital used to be on. And the city of Springfield has already invested some $650,000 raising the buildings that were on this property. that was deeded back to Springfield when the American Legion stopped its current activity, its previous activities, some 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And this is centered around a zoning issue as well, right?
And they have rezoned it, as I understand it, as a municipal issue. But the problem with the deed back in 1969, when the American Legion first received the land, was that there was a deed restriction placed on it so that it could only be used for medical issues. And right now, and there was also a reversion clause saying that if this property was not being used for a medical purpose, then it reverts back to the state. And so we were able to get a bill passed this past week. It went through appropriations initially, and the committee was supportive of it. And then it went through the full House with nearly unanimous support, giving the land back to the city, removing the deed restriction. And so we anticipate good things happening on that site. And it's not a small site. That 52 acres, as I understand it, is 3% of the land that Springfield owns. And to get that back on the tax rolls is something that I think I have to give Nate and the mayor and Art Hollingsworth, one of their commissioners, a great deal of help, because they came down, they testified at committee with me, and now that it's through the House, I'll be handing it over to Mike Knopfs, who has some plans on the Senate side as well.
Well, this would be tremendous for them to be able to clear that hurdle and sell that land and put it back on the tax.
And this gives me some sense of satisfaction that I have actually helped a lot of our people, and it's going to help the city of Springfield, and it's going to help our local economy. And I see lots of wins here, much like I see with the capital outlay budget is another part of the budget that we are anticipating having significant contribution to the KCC, the Kellogg Community College, for its RMTC project, the Regional Manufacturing Training Center project, that is already under construction, and they're looking for some additional state dollars, and we're hoping to be able to put some dollars there. We're looking, one of my amendments to the budget had to deal with first responders cancer presumption.
Right.
This is an area that was put in the budget in the past, but it was never appropriated for. They had $0 in this fund that the state had created. And we know that people who go rushing into fires, we may have mentioned it before on the program, that they have a higher risk of 10 different cancers that they could get. And now with the budget restrictions, the question becomes, are we going to fund it through the budget, given all of the problems that we currently have? Or are we going to move it back? And I had a commitment from leadership saying that, yes, we are going to make sure this gets funded. If it doesn't get into the budget right now, then we're still going to fund it through perhaps the capital outlay program. I haven't seen the exact numbers in the various committees as to what they are cutting from in order to meet their new targets. And so those numbers are still confidential, but with the commitment of leadership saying that we're going to do it, I have every expectation that this is something that is going to get done.
All right, and we'll leave it there. Representative Dr. John Bizon, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Talk to you again soon. 8:20.